Hi there, my name is Dick Howard and Paul came and spoke to me in October 2021. I told him my story then. Okay, so what are my memories of COVID? Well, it seems like a long time ago now, but one thing that has stayed with me is how quiet it was, particularly Dorchester. And if you remember, there was one stage during the lockdowns when we were allowed to go out for half an hour. You couldn't drive there, you had to sort of walk from your home, and the streets of Dorchester were so empty that it was quite remarkable. And I suppose another thing which came to mind also in a similar vein was when I went to watch Crystal Palace play Tottenham Hotspur. Now, there were no crowds allowed in, but later on they allowed 500 people to go and watch a match, where normally you'd have 20 or 30,000. And it was quite eerie being in Selhurst Park watching Crystal Palace play when you could hear the coaches and the players shouting to one another. I think the other thing is that we were very fearful at the time, and perhaps we forget how fearful we were because it was the unknown. We didn't know what this disease was, we didn't know how it spread. And for a long time, Jane and I, we wouldn't touch a communal door handle because you thought it might be transmitted through touch. One major impact of COVID was we couldn't go to church. We weren't allowed to, you couldn't gather. And so we had to invent different ways of doing things. And we got into a routine of each Sunday morning watching the video, often travelling together on the Baptist Church website. We also got into the habit of church hopping, which was an interesting experience. We went to Salisbury Cathedral, Winchester Cathedral, All Souls Langham Place, and we went back to our old church, Purley Baptist, a few times too, and that was really quite moving to go back to the old place. Another thing we had to learn was how to use Zoom, and we're now all quite familiar with it, but we had to learn this new video technology so we could have meetings, and we started up prayer meetings 6 o'clock every Sunday about 3.5 years ago, and they're only just coming to a close in 2 or 3 weeks' time. But getting used to sort of meeting over video conference was a little weird, I have to say. Well, when we came back to church, it was very different. If you remember, we started off by meeting outside in the church garden. And that I actually really enjoyed. And it was a good witness because there were people around the community who said, "Oh yes, we heard you singing the other day," and it was great. And so that was enjoyable. And then when we moved back inside, we had to keep socially distanced, which meant we had all these X's on our seats. So there was still a good number of people coming, but it was limited. But it is noticeable that church has been slow to get back to how it was before the pandemic. Not just Dorchester Baptist Church, but all the churches around town speaking to other people. And we're finally beginning to get there. It is great that I think this year we're really starting to worship again in God's house. That's fantastic. One other impact of the pandemic has been a lot of economic hardship, particularly those affected by long COVID. And we have seen this in the Cap Money courses that we run, that there's been much greater demand for those courses, and there have been some really sad stories that we've heard as a result. So let's hope the recovery continues. Let's hope we have fewer people coming on our Cap Money courses. Let's hope church can get back to full voice. I think one of the things about the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic is that we have so much to be thankful for, to be grateful for. And during the pandemic, many of us were reading our Bibles much more than we would have done otherwise. And there was one psalm which spoke to me especially, which is Psalm 107. So if I may, I'll read you a few verses. "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe, those he gathered from the lands from east and west, from north and south." And many of us are just grateful and give thanks that he did redeem us from the hand of the foe, which is COVID.